Welcome to the group chat with Tara Thomas and Amanda Goodman of Faith and Four-Letter Words.
Happy Friday. I don't think any natural disaster could have kept you away from the morning show because we have a lot to talk about on this Friday.
It is Friday, February 20th. We are in Iowa. If you are joining us from all over, which we have people from all over, and we got hit with somewhere between 1 and 118 inches of snow. We never know what the forecast is. But
correct. So you drove in.
I drove in
from the country.
From the country. I live in the country now. So my driveway, obviously, and like my one road is not done, but my neighborhood roads were done. So
that's good.
The snow, it's a very thick, heavy packed snow. So it's, if you have 4-wheel drive, it's good snow to drive on. And then, I mean, the roads are, just go slowly. But
now,
the kids
and
are off.
I will say, in the city of Waterloo, our city limits encompass 64 square miles, which is larger than the footprint of Minneapolis. And so if your road isn't plowed yet, they'll get to you, but they have to cover 64 square miles. So it's a lot of road to cover we have a pretty robust crew, but that's, to put into perspective, it's the size of a major city in terms of the land mass. And so that's why you may have to wait longer versus if you're in a smaller town. So
our roads are plowed. Like our roads are plowed in my small town. They are all finished already, except like the one right in front of my house. So it was, no, it's not, I'm just very angry I was over it. You know, you cannot tease us with, the 50 degrees. We got up to the 60s almost near 70 and then say, hold up. I'm going to give you snow again.
Someone said it was a faux spring that we've all experienced, which I agree. And if you are heading out, the road report from Amanda Goodman is that it's plowed or it's passable on the major highways and byways where a lot of people have already probably been driving to work, but it's the side roads that are probably going to be slow going. The side roads are not.
The problem is that you start, when you have a 4-wheel drive, when you have a 4-wheel drive and you're like, oh, this is good. We're good. And then you try to take like a turn. We're not good.
Yeah.
So
it's true. So whatever car you're driving, take your time this morning. It never fails. If I think I need extra time, I end up not giving myself extra time. And then I'm like, frustrated because but today you definitely want to take some extra time.
I have to bring up something. So Tara and I had our show, this amazing show in Ackley. And we say it's amazing.
Thank you.
Not us.
And the country club in Ackley. Amazing place.
It was amazing. It was the people. It's when we say we had an amazing show, we're talking about the people in the room. It was the energy, the feeding, when people are laughing, like that gives us life, right? It's kind of like, oh, okay, we're on something, but it was just a really, really good show.
It was so fun.
So it was on Ash Wednesday and I had my ashes on and I was actually very proud that I kept my ashes on because for so much of my adult life, I had to take them off before the news. I was encouraged by management. You don't want to offend people with your ashes. So I was just something like, I'm going to do this show with my ashes on. Well, we were laughing because this beautiful young woman came up to me and she was wearing the E to D shirt, right? And so it was not lost on me that I am standing there with my ashes next to a woman, but that was me. That picture encompasses me, right? Like half holy, half hood.
I agree.
So what's funny,
there were people that didn't like that.
I lost count of how many messages I received and said how disgraceful I am as a Catholic. And I'd like to, before I probably would have gone into like a corner a little bit. If I had to worry about fundraising or if I had to worry about Q ratings on television, I would have been over apologetic. There's nothing more Catholic or nothing more Christian than that. Because that phrase on that phrase on that t-shirt was me responding to a level of disrespect that would have broken so many people. So I'm actually very proud of that shirt. I'm really proud of that shirt.
And
because he's lucky that boss is lucky. That's all I said.
So if you'll see, she referenced the whole incident on our page, and you'll see in the comments, there are a lot of women, especially, that can relate to when you replay in your head a moment in your working life when you were grossly disrespected, mistreated, etc. You wish you would have stood up for yourself differently, right? We reflect on that a lot. So in her case scenario, in this example where you essentially blew, it was 20 years of being checked, put in your place, told all the things. And so she finally snapped. And that is, and born out of that is sort of this rallying cry that now is emblazoned on these shirts. And so I think that if you understood the history and then you looked at it, you know, through the lens of what it feels like as a woman for, you know, going through years of having to just like bite your tongue, many people can relate to that.
I think so too. I think so too. And it's just, and what makes me sad is, you know, all the women saying, I wish I would have, I wish I would have. And I get it. You know, I wish I would have early on too. Right. And it's like what Tara just said. It's, I snapped and I had that psychotic break really. But what's really disappointing to me is being judged by people who call themselves, you know, Christian, Catholic, you know, or all the things, and telling me that there's a certain way that I should have responded or should have acted or all of the thing. Like it's no, I mean, I don't think we were asked, we were told to be perfect. We were told to just be ourselves. And, I don't like the judgment is, I don't even know where I want to go. Cause you know how angry I am this morning. We know how,
yeah.
I mean,
well, and I think part of it is, and you know, we forget, and a lot of people will appreciate this, the bubble that you live in that seems like it's, you know, this very expansive world of people in relationships. It's actually quite small in contrast to the rest of the country, the rest of the world. And so in your little community or your circle, there are probably people who on paper have been successful because they have a business or they have the nice house, the nice car, if they have money. And then in many respects, there's like a default that because those people have some kind of money, then they get to have influence or control over, you know, the rest of us. And so I think that there's something to be said for if you stepped outside of your, you know, 10-mile radius, the person wouldn't know you from the man in the moon if you were speaking of somebody who thinks they're important.
Right.
So I think it's just a good perspective to always keep in mind is you are not small. It's you are in a world, a very small bubble where there's some pseudo social hierarchy and you might feel like you're low man on the totem pole. But I can promise you, as we've experienced, everywhere you go, you meet those people, and those same people would really have the wind sucked out of their sails if they stepped out of that little safe harbor where they've been able to have influence and power.
Well, and I think people with sometimes with like the money and the influence, and especially in small communities, they think that they're like here, right? And with you and
Absolutely.
we were on the receiving end, that we were basically owned by these people because a lot of them were advertisers in the television and news industry back in the day, in the glory days of news, right? And so if you were advertising on a news station, these people like owned you. So you had to be at their beck and call. Like it was just, they didn't like your hair. They didn't like, oh, you said something that you didn't like. An email was sent, a text was sent, and it was immediately like we were on edge. And so we were overly nice.
In line.
We had, right. And so it was, we would have to play it to the room and we very much kissed the ring. Then moving over into the nonprofit world where I had to raise money every single month to keep the lights on, to keep people paid and all of the things. I still had to kiss the ring. So it's all these people who had money who were making the decisions. And so it was, those days are long gone for me.
Oh, absolutely.
So for me, it is not, I don't care what's in your bank account. I don't care if you own a business, a company. Are you leaving the community better than you found it? And what are you saying about people when they're not in the room? That's what I want to know. Like, how are you living your life? And I'm not saying I'm here. How are you living your life? Like, are you living no, what are you doing? Like, how are you handling people who can do nothing for you?
Oh, absolutely. And it goes without saying, we've talked about this many times, the way that social media upended that social hierarchy we speak of is people who have nothing can have influence and reach through a little thing called digital platforms. And so that's how the game really changed. Yes. Because time was, if you were not a traditional, media viewer or consumer, you would never hear about some, woman who is a child advocate in a small town, because the only way you would know about the person is if they were getting publicity through traditional media channels. And so now this world of live streaming has upended that model. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to accept, because they can't buy their way into a pay to play influence structure that used to be the name of the game. And so for me, I always enjoy having just that moment when I see somebody or talk to somebody, and you can tell there's that trepidation, like, oh, well, I want to stay on Amanda's good side. I don't want her to, write about me or something, because years ago, they wouldn't have even cared what she thought. They would have just gone over her head, and they would have picked up the phone with their golfing buddy, who was probably the general manager. And they would have said, shut that bee down.
Right.
Shut that woman down. Cut her off. Cut her off.
Well, it's interesting. Like I saw an incident very recently of behavior that was not indicative of how behavior should be, right, at a game. And I'll just say, like, I was just kind of like, huh. And I mean, I remember we are the digital age, so everything has a video, right? And people like to say things about me like, she's here to ruin towns. She's going to bring down schools. And it's like, that is not, like, if I wanted to ruin, I am not in the business of ruining lives anymore. I'm not on the news. I'm not here to ruin lives. I want to cheer for the underdog. I want to protect the kids, all kids. All kids. So if I really was all of these things that people describe me to be, I would have hit post last night on my public page.
With video.
If I wanted to ruin lives, and if I wanted to make my point crystal clear with 10 toes down, I would have hit publish on my public page. But I'm not. Like, so I can, I can't, I let anybody paint me to be the villain anymore. And you and I, it's a very freeing feeling, right? To be in a position where we are now, where you have nobody that can say, well, I'm going to call your boss.
Oh, I know. Well, exactly. And that was a foreign concept for us, because for decades, we always faced and felt the wrath of people that were pulling puppet strings because it was tied to their bank accounts.
Absolutely.
And I mean, and I think it's so interesting, like we were talking about how that whole model has been upended, because now those same individuals would be clamoring for the opportunity to get the mention or the, shared post or the collab with somebody who has her reach, for example. And so there are so many people who've asked both of us over the years, could you support this cause, or could you share that? And then we always, try to be fair and say it's really difficult, because if you do that for one person, you do feel this obligation, like you have to do it for every single fundraiser, every single GoFundMe. And so it is kind of funny. I mean, we both have experienced this so many times, and I know many of you can relate to this. There's always that weird, like awkward non-reciprocation that often happens. And what I mean by that is, like, some of the same people that always want us, or especially Amanda's help, I don't think they've ever liked our comments on Facebook. They've never come to one of our shows. They've never been publicly supportive. And so it is interesting. And you think to yourself, of course, we're going to be nice. And if we have a relationship with you, we're going to be more inclined to support whatever. But I mean, they've been like silent or crickets up to that point. Right. Now, what's really interesting too, that has happened to me, and I think a lot of you will relate to this. Do you have those people in your midst, friends and family, where every single fundraiser for their kids' sports, they always ask you, or they always send their kids to your door, and you always oblige? And so you buy the $30 Nike card, where you have to go online and get a 25% discount, and you never even benefit from it, but you are supporting whatever local team or whatever. And the funniest part of that is, I kid you not, I almost never reciprocate that and expect my kids to go to them or ask them. But it is funny how there have been times where my kids were a lot younger and their kids were older. And then when my kids aged up to that age, they acted like they wouldn't want to support. And I wanted to say, like, what about those 3 older kids of yours that had their hands out at our door for years. Right. And so, I mean, I just, again, like she said, you don't do something expecting it to be transactional. If you're genuinely sincere about having the relationship, the respect, etc. However, it is so funny how people don't even recognize that they are completely not returning the behavior that they would be critical of you for not executing.
And I think that's why I can speak for me, that I have rage because I know the game, right? I know the game. And it was, we say this all the time in the show. People don't like when you stop people pleasing, right? And there are people, they want you to be the version of you that benefits them. So when we can see posts, and it's very hard. Like we can see posts, live unapologetically you, be authentically you. That is very difficult to do if you are still in the people pleasing business. Oh, because sure. Once you are authentically you, the version that you want to be, other people don't like that. Other people don't like that. And then they turn on you and they still try to. So I am very much, when I believe in something, I am 10 toes down. Like, it's just, this is what it is. I remember I recently, I posted something on my personal page last night, and my husband had said, you're going to get a lot of like crap for that. Mm-hmm. He's like, you really want to rethink that. And I'm like, I'm not rethinking it. I stand on it. And I have the video evidence to prove it, that if anybody wants to come with me, like fact base, I'll have fact base. Like, I was disappointed in what I saw because of my background.
And you're talking about a sporting event where there were parents and kids acting differently than what you felt like were the expectations.
The expectations, I think, from anybody and from people from that side, it was just like, are we okay with this? Because, for instance,
nothing was being done to stop it.
Well, right. Like, for instance, I went to Catholic school my entire life. I talk about that a lot, from preschool through my senior year. And I played sports, and there was a very strict code of conduct when you attend a Catholic school, like going to Catholic school. I remember getting, for instance, there's that story that I wrote where my coach was yelling my name, and I turned around, I was like, what? And he benched me. So the moment that I was benched for whatever reason, the next day I was in the vice principal's office, who was a nun, and I was getting a demerit, and I was getting talked to, and we do not behave this way. Like, we do not, like, there was a level. And I remember they would say, they're like, if you attend this school, these are your expectations, and so that is like ingrained in my head.
I'm going to tell you a counterpoint. The devil's advocate is, growing up in Peoria, Illinois, we had a Catholic school where I would say the default was they were some of the worst fans, and they had a reputation for being awful.
The fans or the players?
The fans.
I'm talking about, like, first of all, fans everywhere are awful.
Yeah. But I mean, it's always funny to me because I agree. Like, there is the prayer before the game, right? At many local schools I can think of that are parochial schools. And then during the game, you're like, these fans are like the worst, in contrast to the prayer that preceded the event.
And I'm speaking of like behavior on.
No, but I know what you're saying, right? The athletes themselves like are being told, like, don't taunt or the trash talking.
We had it was very much. I mean, and I remember.
I think times have changed, unfortunately.
Yeah. So
which is sad, because I think the parents think that it's cool if their kids are being what's the word? Like, if their kids are doing well, athletically speaking, I think that sometimes they think it's cool if they have like an arrogance about them, because I think they think that that's like, we're confident. I don't know. I just think parents today, we are weak. I mean, let's face it.
I think parents,
we know this,
but the difference is parents.
Kids.
The difference today is parents today is very much our kids' success in academics and athletics and all the things. They feel like that's a direct reflection of them. Like,
oh, that's
so
true.
Basically, like,
but I think it also is, it gives them a pass. Like, and I know this because I've lived this. My kids currently are in a school district where it's a more urban school district, and then I grew up in a very urban district. And what I mean by that is there were a lot of challenges, right, where kids were coming from very challenged home lives. And I think what happens is then the default is, then people think, of course, those kids are bad. But then if it's a school where there's affluence or a stereotypical reputation of doing well academically, then I think the default is, oh, we let those kids have a lot more grace because they're the good kids. And so
Well,
I hate that. I hate that because I'll tell you right now, there's a-holes everywhere.
Well, I went to my Catholic school was in a very urban area. So my Catholic school, like I had very, very inner city, you know what I mean? And like, I am very, very protective and I get very defensive when people like attack Catholic schools. I do. And my kids don't go to Catholic school now, but they did. And I get very, very protective because that's all I know. That's all I know. So if I see something that's out of pocket, it is going to make any Catholic school look bad. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because it is so ingrained in me. Like, so it doesn't matter if my kids don't go to school there. I'm just kind of like, like we can't be doing that because I'm still protective of that because that's all I know. That's all my husband knows. We went to Catholic school our whole lives, but that's enough of that. Are you caught up on Love is Blind? No. In the group chat? Are you caught up on Love is Blind? I won't tell you, and I'm not going to tell you what happens, but I will tell you this new season, episode 8, because I looked down and it was episode 8. There is something that a guy says, I can't wait to watch it. A guy says to his fiance, and I looked up and I said, "Excuse me, sir." So basically, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but somebody. I have to say what was said. Wait, okay. I'm not going to tell you who. It's going to blow your. It's going to blow your mind.
Don't give it away though.
But basically, this person was like, "I like somebody who like works out and does CrossFit or who goes to Pilates every day." And I looked up to see who was saying it, and I'm like, "Sir." Like,
okay, now I think I know who said it based on some of the preceding content, but I hope I don't. Okay. Did you guys see, if you're watching Love is Blind, the guy with the CPAP machine? That was hilarious. Like the first night when they were sleeping together.
I know, poor guy.
And he has the sleep apnea. And I just thought, and it was so funny because my husband was watching it with me. And he went, I mean, the look on his face. And then I was like saying,
good for him, he has to do it.
And I was saying to myself, like, I can't believe that how fortunate I am. My husband does not snore. And it's so rare when I talk to people. Like, there are so many people who not just men. I mean, a lot of women snore too, but I mean, there's usually in every friendship relationship I know, I talk to so many people where one of them is a regular snorer to the point where it's like disruptive for the other person. Yes. And so like, I am grateful that like my husband and I, honestly, unless we're like really tired, we're sleeping on our back, knock on bricks, we usually don't snore. And so when I watched that, I was like, I told Dave, I said, couldn't he have like not worn the mask for the first night? And then I thought, well, no, because he has to breathe. Die. Yeah, he's gonna die. And
I give him credit.
And she would probably be awakened by his snoring.
Well, first of all, why pretend? Like, you know what I'm saying?
You're
like,
right. You're right.
You can't pretend that you're anything else, because it's like it's like when you meet somebody and you're in a relationship, it's kind of like a job. It's like those first 90 days, everyone's on their best behavior. Day 91 is where I think every relationship, every job should start on day 91 because that's when you see everything.
When your honeymoon period is over. Before we continue our very important, debating of Love is Blind and all the things, I wanted to give a shout out to one of our friends who's watching, Johnny Hansen. She's the best. We love her. And she is a local homeless, not just an advocate, but somebody who really puts her, actions into words. And she started the warming center with a lot of private donations and is now offering at least January through March a place where anyone in Waterloo can go overnight if they don't have a safe place and if they want to get out of the cold. So I thought of her this morning with our snowfall because we did have a little bit of a warm up, and just thank you, Johnny, for all that you're doing because we admire you, respect you, and totally are behind you.
She is. When you talk about nonprofits, and I've gotten to see behind the green curtain of the nonprofit world, she is the doer.
Yes.
She's not writing grants and trying to like have these giant staffs and, just constant. She's not doing all of that. She's doing the work. She's going and finding homeless people who are sleeping under bridges and bringing them inside.
She is.
She's literally bringing out her own crock pot and feeding
Mhm.
homeless people. So if you are local and you ever want to donate, whether it's food or
that's what I was just
furnishings,
gonna say.
or
Hospitality
money.
House. They have a Facebook page.
she is like
She's
an
the
angel
real
on
deal.
earth. She's
So
the
we
real
love
deal.
her. So thanks for watching. My
Yeah.
mother, Joanne, is watching, and I talked to her this morning. And they have really strong winds right now in Illinois, but they didn't get the snow like us. But I was telling you, my sister, who's 5 years younger, she has been sick all week with influenza A, and it's just been awful. She got the flu shot, but this strain of influenza A is supposedly horrible this season. So for those of you who've been sick, you're not alone. A lot of people have been sick. So I'm happy right now that my sister, I think, is getting better. My mom did not get sick. And then my son and I, we were planning to go to celebrate my mom's birthday. So we're planning to go next weekend. So then my mom was like, it's good that you're coming another week later because everybody's been sick. But I have to say, happy 81st birthday to my mom. Tomorrow she will be
Happy
turning
birthday,
81.
Joanne.
She doesn't look a day over 69.
She's the silver fox. She's a foxy lady. She's best fashion sense ever. Best fashion sense. Happy
So,
birthday, Joanne.
Thank you. I wanted to give her that birthday shout out. When we used to do birthdays on the
Yeah.
morning news, it was always hilarious
funny.
because the best one ever, and I should find this clip to show you guys someday, this clip that we did with Chris Carter, Mark Schnackenberg, and me. There was this kid who became a really good wrestler at Don Bosco named Gable Fox. Appropriately, Gable was his first name. His parents sent in this tongue-in-cheek, hilarious birthday tribute to him when he was like 3, and it was like he enjoys long walks on the beach.
That's funny.
It was
That's
so
cute.
funny,
That's
and we
cute.
were dying when we were reading it.
You had to read it.
Yeah,
I
because
never.
it was like a live read.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we never did that. I'm this morning though. I'm thinking about how our children get the text alerts now. But like all of us, I guarantee everyone watching right now in the group chat, we had to get up really early and we were watching it like it was the lotto
or
numbers.
the radio, or
the
listening
radio.
on the radio.
Yeah,
I was
we
in
had
the
Wink
shower
104.
listening to Tiffany. I think we're alone now, and they like interrupted to say that we.
Well, and I had to wait until the very end because they would do the public schools and then like
Oh
we
my
rode
gosh.
the buses.
From the public schools.
But no, we didn't. Even
Okay.
though
we
paid.
used to have the Catholic kids on our bus.
No, and then back in the day, it was public schools. You paid your public school, and then you also had to pay, But we had our own public own transportation, so we had to wait till the very end. They put the Catholic kids at the very end of, and sometimes it was all the public schools would be out, but the Catholic kids had to go.
You still had to go because you guys were, in a stricter, more controlled environment, probably than some of those public schools.
Hey, we didn't
until you were at your basketball game on Friday night.
My Catholic school was like, I am so thankful for my education, and I am so like where I went. And if there's anybody from back home, there's some people from back home who are on this. It was literally like going to school with a bunch of baby. I mean, it was take no stuff. Like we were taught by the Sisters of Saint Joseph.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was like a level of, and I'm
you
grateful.
Just have random parents that are teachers.
Like I'm very grateful because it was a level. We were taught reverence and we were taught respect and we were taught.
But let's be honest, that Billy Joel song, kind of nails it, that there was the stereotype that the Catholic schoolgirls ended up being some of the baddies.
I mean, not me. Not me.
Thinking, not in high school, but admittedly in college, you definitely had your...
But I think it's because this is the problem. This is the problem. It's because I think it is like society sees kids and they see these, high school kids, and we're wearing the uniform and the boys wearing their ties and everything, and they just assume that we're not. They're bad. I mean, like we were all bad.
We always knew the Catholic.
We had the best parties.
If you were in high school and you wanted to get into it, you were going to roll up on the Catholic kids and their parties.
We had the best parties. But I think it's because people assumed. I think honestly, it was this. People were going to assume that we were just like these little church ladies
Oh
So
no.
when we were bumping Dre and like Pac, and
It's
I
so
mean
funny.
it was
Well,
no,
it is funny though, because when you think about high school and how every school had their sort of
yes,
the
there
reputation, the
yes.
stereotype, and it's really actually hilarious that my high school, this is so funny. And some of you guys that went to school where your school was maybe considered the bad school will appreciate this. So my my school, Peoria, Illinois, back in the 90s, we definitely had some challenges by way of just Peoria itself is kind of the halfway point between St. Louis and Chicago. So
Okay.
there were elements of gangs and drug activity that made sense because it was like the stopping point between, Chicago and St. Louis. So my high school definitely had some tough situations, but very safe in comparison to what we think of as, today's world of school shootings, et cetera. So I went to a magnet middle school. And then when we split off into high schools, there was the high school that a lot of kids went to that it's called Richwoods, ironically. And that's where my nephew and my niece will go. But it's a great school. But what's funny is back in the day, they were like the school that thought they were better. And then I was at Peoria Manual, the school that was like down the hill on the south side. So when I would run into my friends from middle school who were now in high school, one of them said, I'm not allowed to, walk around without a friend at your high school because we have to use the buddy system. I mean, because and I was like laughing. I mean, I was like, you're kidding. And I mean, so this is so funny. So in that same vein, my daughter is a sophomore this is a great story. She's a sophomore at University of Arizona. Freshman year in her dorm, the Honors Village, which is, love the school, great program. She meets a girl from West Des Moines. And I said, wow, that's crazy. You went all the way to Arizona. You met a kid from Iowa. And she goes, yeah, Mom. She's like, I told her where I was from. And she said, oh, we weren't allowed to, when we went there, we really had to be careful. We weren't allowed to like walk around,
Go walk around.
Yeah. And then I said, but your parents sent you 30 minutes north of the Mexican border.
Yeah,
with
right. With the
cartels,
With the
like
cartels.
lurking. I mean, serious. Think
Come
of
on.
how silly that is.
Come on.
That your kid is raised in West Des Moines and they're afraid to be released
And
on the streets
like-
of Waterloo, but you're in Tucson, Arizona, where there's 600,000 people.
And I want to roll my eyes so much. Like when anybody talks about like if they say Waterloo is so dangerous, then you would never have survived in any of the cities back like where I'm from. Like
anywhere because
absurd.
Because it's a small town. Waterloo is only 68,000
It's
people.
a very
right?
small.
So
Des Moines is a small town.
granted, there's a lot of smaller towns, but it's small in the sense of it is an everybody knows everybody kind of existence.
Right? I like last night at this basketball game, I was like sitting there thinking, because I looked over and I happened to see like a police officer, and that to me is very normal. Like I didn't even, I like walked and I was like, because I was thinking, I'm like, there's nothing's gonna pop off here, right, at this game, like and nothing did like that by any means. But I was thinking about like in high school,
except your mouth,
except my mouth. That's a given. But like I was thinking about my high school. Where we were, I mean, like we were right in inner city Harrisburg, and like when we would play certain schools, like first of all, we can only play our home games. We had to play in the morning on Saturday mornings. Okay, so and then when we would have our basketball games, it was the entire city police department was lining up to stop like the fighting between the fans, never on the court. Like the kids would run their mouth, but not like would never taunt a crowd. Does that make sense? Like, but the fans were very, very, and it was the best though. It was like a good old.
Of course, the rivalries are insane in those cities where you have, the kids that are like ball is life, right? But this is what's so funny. So when I think back, like you just described to those high school games, I mean, it was standing room only crowds at some of these games. And so it's sad today, and we've talked about this, especially now in some of these larger schools where the kids there's so many kids, like your kid will never know all of their classmates, these big schools. There's something that has shifted culturally, and I blame some of that on social media, where there's so many more entertainment options when you can
Yeah.
just sit at home and
Well-
scroll that they don't even like want to come to the game sometimes.
I just
you know?
like I'm thinking
Isn't that sad?
Well, I'm thinking it is
back
sad.
in the day, that was the only way to
Facts.
be seen. You had to roll, you had to come in late,
Yeah.
walk across the crowd.
Yeah, and you were rolling in like I mean,
It
like,
was your runway.
it was like the movie Above the Rim.
oh,
I mean, like my high school, it was like
a
Above the Rim.
Same
And
with
so
mine.
the one thing that's interesting, and I was talking to my dad about it. My dad was a long time basketball coach, and I talked to my brother about it all the time. And I'm like, no one's dunking. Like someone's dunking like once a game, and it's like the big moment. Like in my high school and the teams that we were playing, it was like every time up the court. I mean, and it was like bam, and they were hanging and they were swinging. And it was,
Well, now you can't flop. You can't hang on the rim.
But they don't even-
It's crazy.
I don't
the calls.
I just don't see. I just remember back home, again. I'm grateful for the era. I know it's a different era, but I'm grateful for the era
Yeah.
I grew up where it was.
It's a little more no holds barred.
Well, so it's like when people are jawing, whether you're playing football or basketball, you're jawing, and I'm just like, nothing you just did was special. You know what I'm saying? I've seen special. Like I've seen, and that sounds so horrible, but like I've seen special. Like that we had a player back at Bishop McDevitt High School. I think he's still the all-time record. Like Zeffy Penn, he went on to play for Villanova. Zeph was like dunking in 8th grade. I mean, he would just, and it was like he would dunk like and hang back when you could hang on it, and then he would just run up the like nothing was wrong. It was like a walk in the park. It wasn't like he wasn't looking at the crowd jawing. He was just like just doing my business.
Well, and I can relate. My high school was always in those days nationally ranked, and so my sister, when she was a cheerleader for the team, and they ended up being revered as one of the top teams in the country, they got to go to the White House. And so the funniest part of it is my sister and my mom and I always laugh about this. We have the clip on the news where Al Gore is the one that they met in the White House. And when they showed the wide shot of the cheerleaders and the team, my sister managed to weasel her way up to the
You gotta
front,
get in there.
and she was adjusting her bra straps when
Come on,
she was
bird.
meeting. And so it's so funny. We always laugh. But really fun fact, those of you who are diehard basketball fans will remember this. Back in the day, they had a documentary, Hoop Dreams, and it chronicled the lives of 2 kids growing up in Chicago who were tapped as, basketball stars and future potential pro athletes. So in this documentary, that's very much a well-respected chronicle of life in high school basketball back in those days, in circles where people, watch and care about sports documentaries. It is the premier documentary for the 90s and personifying basketball as it was, like we're describing. And I'm in the documentary because my team, we were one of the top teams in the state in Illinois. So we played these kids. And so they were talking about my classmate, because he was a stud and was a McDonald's All-American, went on to play at DePaul and then played with the Atlanta Hawks. And so he is the rival that they speak of in this documentary. And it's so funny because our colors were orange and black, and they take a crowd shot and I'm wearing I had the
Did
orange.
you have a belly shirt on?
I had we had the puff paint shirts where we would I had orange pants with black polka dots. Remember the polka dots?
Yes.
Remember Kwame?
Yes, I do.
Kwame?
Yes,
So-
I do remember that. I think that's why nothing impresses me when it comes to like high school athletics. And that sounds horrible. Like I'm impressed by
It was
kids'
just it was
talent,
a different time.
the different era. Like I
Yeah.
went to my high school. I went to an athlete factory. We had so many NFL players come out of my high school and go on to. It's just so you've got to do something that's really going to impress.
Well, and they it's interesting you say that, because they kind of have now moved in this state into more of a recruiting atmosphere by way of the vouchers. So there are kids now that are going to private schools for free because they're using vouchers. And so I think that's now being used as a recruiting tool.
Well, it is. And Catholic schools have always
we know,
recruited.
because we know kids where they are currently playing on teams, and this is their first year on the team and they're seniors. I know 2 that come to mind. And the thing about that I always think is so interesting is good for them, right? You've been promised a starting spot, or they told you, we want you. And then I always think those poor kids who since first grade, they've been
Yeah.
playing on the travel
It is.
teams, and they've been waiting for their
Right.
chance. And now they're junior and senior year and they're riding the bench because some kid, came in from another school who's never been a part of that program. And then in the end, the parents are thinking, oh, I thought it was about community and commitment. And really, it's only about winning.
Yeah.
Like, who's the better player? Oh,
Right.
your kid who's been here 12 years, or this kid that we just poached from across town? We'll take him.
Yeah, the voucher
I don't
program,
get that. I don't
between
get that.
between that and like the transfer portal of sports, but we don't want to bore anybody. Like, there's probably tons of people that are like, "Why are they talking so much about sports? We're so sorry, we got sidetracked." But it was it was fun going to some athlete factories as high schools, and
Yeah, it was.
and then eating at Ponderosa or TGI Fridays after the game.
Oh
Like,
my
that was-
gosh, McDonald's was our hangout. We'd
Well, okay.
all go to McDonald's after the
Did
game.
I just share this the other day? I did. I think I did when my sister was talking about, like, she played soccer for a very brief period of time, and she was Kimmy, and she was just like, everyone used to tell me that I was fat. She's like, of course I was. She was like, before we would go to the soccer game, Dad would buy me we'd go to McDonald's and he would buy me the Egg McMuffin, hash browns, and a large Coke, and then I'd play my hour-long game, and then he'd take me for the Big Mac. I mean, like, we laugh about it, but my brother and I, like, because I miss the rituals, and so after every home game in high school, my dad and I went to TGI Fridays. So I'm like, give me some potato skins and mozzarella.
Well,
sticks.
and the thing about sports, and for those of you who can relate, if you were in a school like this, it was the social driver of hanging out, because you would all go to these games, people would all hang out, and no matter the school, no matter the size, it was the epicenter of the social hierarchy. And so it is sad how social media and video games have completely pushed that traditional community connection aside, because now you just have some kids, like, they don't even care about all those things because their socialization or their entertainment is coming from isolation by way of screens, right? And so I think that's what's sad about how, and we always talk about this, it's not that the kids have a bad experience, it's just an experience that will never be replicated, because what we had meant all the things that were pure and good, and I mean, and now it's all been diluted.
Yeah, it's just sad. I don't know. It's just kind of like, too, I was talking to a friend of mine at work, and for instance, like, her school district was already planning to probably not be off today, like to be off today, but there was going to be a virtual learning day. And I think, let those kids have a snow day.
Oh yeah.
Let these kids have a
Fire
snow
up
day.
your Chromebook.
Like,
when
if
you
they're at
should
home,
be, like, out playing in the snow.
They should be out playing in the snow. And, like, for the parent, like, no mom or dad wants to help their child with virtual learning.
So
I don't care who you are. Like, it is.
So my niece Ava, my mom is probably watching during COVID. She was in kindergarten and they were making them do the virtual learning, and we die laughing about it now. She kept saying that her computer was having problems, and they actually got a neighbor who was really tech savvy to try to help troubleshoot the computer, and he finally said, I think she's just shutting the computer off.
That's hilarious.
It turns out,
no,
yes, she was in kindergarten,
Kids don't need to be doing.
Yeah, but that's so true. I mean, it was so fun during snow days to, like, get a crew together, go sledding, do all the winter active winter stuff. We all did that at all ages. I remember in high school, like, people were doing WWF matches in the snow.
Oh, that's why I love my neighborhood. Our neighborhood's very, very, all the young kids, like all new neighborhoods are, right? All the little kids, and it never fails. You look out your window and it's like the moment the sun comes out, they're all outside playing on theirs. And that's what kids need to do. So that's what I really appreciate. And it is 7:41. We are talking about Nancy Guthrie as well. There is still, I think we've talked about it. There's a thing called Nancy Guthrie fatigue. People are over it. And I don't know. I want to know real quick. I want to ask people in the group chat, because I don't want to go too much into it. Do you have the Nancy Guthrie fatigue? Do you think she's getting too much coverage? I just want to put that out there. It is awful. It's horrendous. It's scary. And it's so emotional. I cannot even imagine the pain that family and her friends are going through. But is there an unfair amount of coverage based on who her daughter is, when there are other people, other families who are missing loved ones, and they haven't found them either. So I kind of wanted to pose that
Well,
question.
and it
for
was
the
too
group
bad
chat.
that the update, the most recent one I saw, is they really haven't been able to get any breaks by way of DNA evidence, which is so crazy because we all assume, the technology has advanced even beyond what we are aware of. And I think I was surprised when they said that the FBI's capabilities now are so advanced that the guy's image on that Ring doorbell with the mask, that they'd be able to read
Superimpose.
through
Yeah.
the fibers and figure out the facial features. So assuming it's a man. So I was just blown away by that, because I think the other thing that's so interesting, people always get feeling, not all, but some get that feeling of like, I don't want to be watched, and the Big Brother concept. I can tell you I'm all for those cameras that are sort of community cameras. And what I mean by that, cameras at intersections, right? Cameras that are outside businesses. And I'll tell you why. I was in a wreck, as you know, in January. That video of the crash really helped to sort of confirm exactly what happened and that I wasn't at fault. So I'm grateful that they had an intersection camera, because then you can actually have video proof if you've been victimized by everything from a crash to a crime. So I think we have a unique perspective because we were always on camera, but I just assume everywhere I go, there's probably a camera. And when I worked in a previous employer, this is so funny, there were interior cameras in the halls. And so the hilarious part was somebody would tell somebody, like, I can't believe I tripped up the stairs. And then they would go back and pull the clip.
That's creepy.
And they would have a clip of the person when they like fell or did something stupid. And so then I would think to myself, wait a minute, did I adjust my Spanx? Or I would like start to overthink, like, what have I done? Did I pick my nose or do something embarrassing?
I always assume everyone's watching. It's kind of like when people,
yes.
It's kind of
especially at businesses.
Well, and it's also when people will say, Amanda said this to me in a message. It's like, this is, first of all, again, whatever I say, I'll give you a microphone, I'll say it again. Anytime someone texts me, anyone sends me a message, I am not dumb. Like, I know everything I'm saying can and will probably be screenshot and probably posted. So if I said it, then I mean it, and I'm not gonna like apologize for it. So, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like very much like, okay.
But that's the other thing too that's unfortunate is now with AI and with hyper not I guess fair and ethical editing. I mean, there's so many things that are taken out of context or manipulated. And we see this on Real Housewives all the time, because this is what they do, which I love this because it makes it so dramatic. Like, if you say something that's like really shocking, then they'll do a cutaway where the person is they don't respond right away. Well, of course they're responding right away. They're just doing a cutaway of the pregnant pause. So it's like, I'm speechless. And it cracks me up because you can tell it's so much more curated than the early days of Vicky when she was in Real Housewives of OC, where everything was like, and they didn't have all the plastic surgery and they just looked more normal.
That's why, like, Real Housewives, the franchises are the best when they first start off.
And
none of it's real.
It's so like more real and raw and unscripted.
Look at this.
We have some great comments.
Somebody
here.
says, like, what bothers me is the media doesn't put that much emphasis on the missing Indigenous and women of color. And you're absolutely right. And that's where it is. It's like, it's like a lot of privilege is showing right now.
1,000%, because it's a business.
Yeah.
So the driver is sometimes the default of like the JonBenet Ramsey over somebody coming from a family that they wouldn't think is as relatable to the average viewer. And that's so unfortunate because it's manipulating, it's impacting people's outcomes based on monetary drivers being the default for the decision making, and that's disgusting.
Yeah, and I was trying to see
we were so
like there's
used to that.
Well, on the Today Show, like right now and on NBC, and it's like I was trying to sit there and think, and I'm like, all of the yellow ribbons on there, and I'm trying to think of it from because everyone at work,
coworker,
but everyone at work and everyone when we worked on television, everyone was going through horrible things, things.
Well,
and there was no.
I told you how horrible it was when they had to decide when they were going to stop wearing ribbons for Jody Husen.
Sure. And that was like, it's a bad thing. So you're setting like a precedence. It's like, I don't know. And I hate, even saying this, but I'm saying it from a journalist standpoint. At this point, you leave it to now the regional and local coverage who's down there where the search is impacting. But as far as the national news cycle, it is it's difficult. It's difficult. But I think now that I think a lot of NBC is now, because their ratings have gone up, because people want to tune in. How emotional are they going to be out there? Are they going to hear from Savannah?
It's
are we
more,
going to?
Yes,
it's now about ratings.
It's
and that's
more
gross.
the salacious nature of it.
I don't like
but
it.
I will be boots on the ground in March, and I will try to get some local updates to share with you and the viewers when I'm in Tucson. I think. Well, and here's another thing that's interesting. I talked to a friend yesterday whose daughter lives in Tucson, and he told me exactly where Nancy Guthrie's house is. And I thought it was in this part of the city. So it's this area, the Catalina foothills, they call it. And so what's interesting is she's very close to this upscale outdoor mall. And it's so crazy that I just was there having lunch, not that long ago. But it's a very nice area. And then he had said to me, she was in a gated community, and there are so many of those gated communities. But what's so interesting is once you get through the gate, then it would be very secluded when you wind back up to like her property. So what I think still, and I know it's completely alleged and we don't have the facts, but that did make me think that it might have been somebody then who would have had access to be able to get into the gate.
The whole thing's shady. The whole thing's shady. It's so, it's
because
I don't think it's random. The whole
and
thing
it
is so shady.
So bizarre when you think of how many people especially older people. I mean, this makes me sad to think about. Think of all the people that you hear about in nursing homes who have had elder care abuse because of some worker who acted out violently or somebody who abused them in a privileged situation where they had contact with these young, these older people alone, like in a nursing home setting. Well, that translates to home health care, because there are people you could hire who Savannah and her siblings could have vetted and thought this was a wonderful person who would come in and help her mom. And I'm completely fabricating this because I don't know that she had a home health worker. But my point is you have to be so careful the people you allow access to your loved ones. And in this case, Savannah was in New York City. So, I mean, it's not like she was going to monitor the day-to-day goings on of her mom.
Right.
But the sibling was close.
Right.
The sibling lives 5 minutes away, they said.
Yeah, I don't trust any of it. I think it's just weird. The whole thing is weird.
It's really sad. And I think the part that's so hard, we know how people get fatigue and we know how they move on. And you talk about it a lot, where when we were covering the Lyric and Elizabeth thing, there was like one mention for 30 seconds on the anniversary, and then it's never
Why are we not
again,
like we haven't locally? When was the last time they did a story about finding out who killed Lyric or Elizabeth?
Now, by the way, if you haven't watched the documentary produced by our friend and my former coworker Dylan Sayers, it's excellent, and that is well worth your time, as is the documentary on the miracle season when the Olympic skiers, who were all college kids, beat Russia when the Olympics were in Lake Placid. Well, if you love the movie Miracle with Kurt Russell, where he played that coach, who is he, Herb Street? I mean, this documentary, if you're at all a sports fan, especially if you like hockey, watch this documentary. They took all the original team back to Lake Placid. And this was the most moving part, and you'll appreciate this. All these guys are older now, so they're in their like late 60s. They showed all the clips from the news when their parents were a part of the fervor that swept the country. It was a tough time. The economy was down, with Carter having some challenges, hostage crisis, and then the downturn in the economy where gas was being rationed. It was a tough time in our country. So they talked about how it gave the country hope to believe in these college kids that were able to, unexpectedly beat the Russians. They show the news clips of the parents, and it was so touching. These guys, older gentlemen, I mean, they were in tears because they said, you have no idea the sacrifices that our parents made for us. One of the guys was a widow, And the kid said, when we won that game, that was the first time I had ever seen my dad be happy after the death of my mom.
Man,
and so many of those people had not seen the clips, and their parents, most of them are all dead. And so it was so cool just to watch. And they all got together and they admitted, they hated each other when they first joined the Olympic team, because it was the northern Minnesota, Michigan kids that had to get together with the East Coast Boston kids. And they hated each other. So Herb, the coach, was brilliant. He wanted them to be united around hate for him. So he became this adversarial tough guy.
Okay.
And the kids, he's passed on, but his kids were interviewed, and they said, "You think he was tough as a coach? Try having him as a father."
Oh, I believe it.
It's so good. I love that. So if you're looking for something to watch with your man this weekend, any guy and woman for that matter would love that documentary. And this was the last part I'll mention that was so cool. Lake Placid is a small town.
Very
crazy to think they hosted the Winter Olympics all those years ago. When you walk through that town today, as this team did, they're still all recognized. And the people were driving by and they were like, "Thanks for what you did. We love you." And it was so cool because that was in the 70s, right? Or the 80s, the early 80s. And to think that now, all these decades later, those people, those college kids who are, older adults, they're still revered as the hope of a nation. I mean, that's what they represent.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Have you seen that movie Miracle with Kurt Russell? It's not a great movie.
Yeah, for sure. My husband definitely would not be one that was watching it because he hates hockey. So he would not be, he's going to be like, "I'm not watching that." But I'll make him watch Love is Blind. It's 7:56 already. We have worked our way on this snow day. I do want to give my 4-letter word of the day. I think it needs to be true. And you have to be true to yourself and true to what you believe in, even when you have everybody coming at you sideways. Don't lose yourself just because people don't like what you said, what you posted. When you are passionate about something or you believe in something, I encourage you just to stay true to who you are and don't play to the crowd, and don't worry about kissing the ring, because if those people are requiring you to kiss up to them for their approval, then you probably don't want to be around them.
That's good. I like that.
Thank
True.
You.
The verse of the day comes from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11. "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." And I love that verse for so many reasons, because no matter the age, right? Especially when you think of children, as much as we can be resistant to having self-control and discipline, we actually thrive when we learn to embrace it and accept that sometimes restraint in so many areas of our life, and then also sometimes being able to exercise some level of, disciplinary restraint on your children, it's not a bad thing, right? Because we know, being raised by baby boomers, how it felt as adults. You appreciate that you had parents who were looking out for you, held you to high standards, and cared for you enough that they did set some boundaries for you. And so think of your life and some of the things that you don't set in terms of, boundaries or parameters, and know that having the discipline to do so can really produce a harvest, because you can look back, months or years later, and you say, "I'm so much better off because I actually put up some level of control around a certain problem or issue." And I think that also extends to what we consume, right? Because we laugh and talk about escapist television, and we do watch a lot of, mindless TV, admittedly, for entertainment. But I also make a point, to try to read a Bible verse every day, or try to do something that gets me in the habit of, in this regard, producing an outcome that is fruitful.
Yeah. You have to pour into something. You have to enrich your life in a way that's, because I think if you're enriching yourself, then you're going to try to make the room better than what you left.
Yeah. Try to grow as a person, because we don't want to be stuck.
Don't want to stay stuck. And speaking of staying stuck, if you don't have 4-wheel drive, don't leave today. I mean, the roads are pretty bad, but show some grace and some love. So all the plow, drivers out there, we appreciate the men and women who are working so hard on the streets, because adulting means we all have to work.
And next week, we will be in Lawler back at the Starlight Ballroom. We would love for you to join us on Wednesday next week. And it's 6 to 8, just a couple hours to hang out with us. You can go to faithandfourletterwords.com and check out the upcoming shows. We added a show in Jessup by popular demand. Thank you to our friends at the Country Club in Jessup who invited us back. And then we also have some merch on that website. You may have seen one of the shirts if you saw her post this week when she had her Ash Wednesday ashes.
I mean, and I do want to ask you all something. Before you judge someone on how they respond to any situation, I encourage everyone to ask the question, hey, what made you respond that way?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's always, as we know, it's always messy people who come in, disrupt our lives, and the reactor always gets in trouble. The second person always gets caught. So I encourage you all to do that, whether it's in your own life or maybe your kids' lives. Flip that.
We'll have a great weekend. Thank you to our sponsors. We so appreciate Splendore in Cedar Falls and Middle River Cabinetry out of Winterset. And thanks for the liquid facelift, Liz, over in Cedar Falls.
Looks good.
A cheesy smile.
The group chat is brought to you by the empowering staff at Middle River Cabinetry and Splendore Medical Spa.